In this video, I'd like to talk about the concept of adding decimals. So we have this example problem, 23.4 plus 19.7. And the process for actually adding decimal numbers is fairly straightforward and will generally be the same for every single problem. And basically, you're going to line this up in a column like you normally would with addition problems. So let's say we have 23.4 up top, and we'll add 19.7 down below. And what you can see is that I've lined up the decimals. So that is essentially the key point here. So you want to line up the decimals when adding in a column. And if you can remember this key point of just lining up the decimal values, then you just add or subtract straight down. We'll essentially do the same thing with subtraction, but we'll add the tenths place first. So 4 and 7 make 11. So you put a 1 down here and carry up this extra 1, because it's really not 11 that you got. You really got 1.1 when you added those. So you put the 0.1 here, and then the 1 gets carried over to the ones place. And then again, we just add straight down. 1 and 3 make 4. 4 and 9 make 13. So you put the 3 there, the ones place goes there, and we'll carry up the 10 from 13 right there. So 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 1 again gives us 4. So if you add 23 and 4 tenths plus 19 and 7 tenths, it just simply adds up to 43 and 1 tenth. So let's move on. Let's do a couple more difficult questions. And I'll just line it up in a column this time. Let's say we have 142.165, and we're going to add that to 75.87. And again, we're just going to line up our decimal places. So the ones places, the tens, the hundreds, the tenths, the hundredths, and the thousands should all line up. And notice in this one how not everything matches up. This 5 has nothing underneath it. The 1 and the 8 line up, and the 6 and the 7 line up because they're in the same place. But the 5 has nothing to line up with it. So one thing you can always do when you have a decimal is at the end, you can add as many zeros as you want. Now in this case, we only need one of them. So then we can just add straight down. Because again, we just line the decimals up and then just add going straight down the columns. So 5 and 0 make 5. 6 and 7 makes 13. Now this is 13 hundredths. So the 3 goes down in the hundredths place. We put the 1 up in the tenths place. So 1 and 1 make 2. 2 and 8 make 10. So there are 10 tenths, or that's just 1 total. So we'll put a 0 for the tenths. We'll put our decimal. And then we'll add another 1 up here. We'll just essentially carry that place over. Now 1 and 2 make 3. 3 and 5 make 8. Then we do 4 and 7, which makes 11. Really, we're adding 40 and 70 here if you ignore the numbers in the ones place. So you really get 110. So you put the 10 down there in the tens place, and then you put the 1 up in the hundreds place. 1 and 1 make 2. So your final answer would be 218, and this is 35 thousandths, since this is the thousandths place, and you essentially have 35 of them. Now, just to make a little bit more sense of this, think about the number 14.8, let's say. Now, this number is 14 and 8 tenths, but you want to think about all the place values. This is the ones place, or the 10 to the 0 place. This is the tens place. Let's say we have one more number. Let's go with a 3. This will be the hundreds place, or the tens place is really the 10 to the first. The hundreds place is really the 10 squared place, since we do use a base 10 number system. So this right here, this is the tenths place. And it's also, you could think about it as 10 to the minus 1, since 10 to the minus 1 just means divide by 10 one time. And if we had another digit here, let's say 3, this would be the hundredths place, or the 10 to the minus 2 place. So when you see a number like this, it's really 3 hundreds, so 3 times 100, plus 1 10, so 1 times 10, plus 4 ones, so 4 times 1, and then 8 tenths, so let me just scroll over, so plus 8, and then we have tenths there, and then plus 3 hundredths, so 3 over 100. So when you see a number like this, you can really break it up into each of its place values being essentially added together. Like when you see 314, you have 3 hundreds, 1 10, and 4 ones, but really we usually think about them as all added together. But it works the same way as decimals as well. So when we add a number, let's say we're adding, let me just make a little more room here. Let's say we're adding the number 27.81. When we break this up into its place values, we have 2 tens, 7 ones, we have 8 tenths, so that's from the tenths place, and we have 1 hundredth. So when we're actually adding these decimals, all we're really doing is matching up the tens places together, the ones places together, let me use a different color, the tenths places together, and the hundredths places together. And also you might have some other place that doesn't match up with one from the other number, and that's okay too. That will just carry along. So when we add these, we're just matching them up with their place value in the respective number that they're being added to, and then just combining those together. So for instance, when we actually add these, we're just in practice going to use the column method. So you get 314.83, and we're adding 27.81 down below. But the reason we just line up the columns together is because that way the tenths will add together, the hundredths will add together, the ones, the tens, and so on. They match up with their respective place values in the other number, and then we can just essentially find out, let's say, how many tenths there are in total. And we have 8 from each of them, so in total there are 16 of those tenths when we add them together. And of course you'll have to carry over different place values, because if you have 16 tenths, that's really 1 and 6 tenths. So anyways, when we add these together, we just go straight down the column. So 3 and 1 make 4, 8 and 8 make 16. We carry a 1, 5 and 7 make 12. The decimal just carries down, and we got to carry a 1 over here since this was 12. 1 and 1 make 2, 2 and 2 make 4, and then the 3 will just carry down. So when we add these two numbers together, we should get 342.64. But it should make some sense, because just think about the whole number parts. 314 and 27, when you add those together, you get 341. And then we're adding 83 hundredths to 81 hundredths, which is why we go up another 1 in the ones digits.